Chapter 3. I hated sewing. Hated the monotony of it, hated the needles, the thread, the stitching, everything. Not to mention, I pricked myself so many times the maids kept having to wrap my fingers until they were thick as dumplings. I almost missed my lessons. Almost. The days crawled by, slower than the snails that clustered outside the papered window screens. I embroidered crane after crane, spending so much time on them that they began to haunt my dreams. They'd peck at my toes, their cinder-black eyes glittering, then suddenly turn into dragons with pointed teeth and mischievous smiles. I couldn't stop thinking about the dragon and the expression that crossed Reikama's face when Andahai had mentioned him. Like she wished I had drowned in the lake. Who knew what went on in my stepmother's head? Like me, she had little talent for embroidery, but unlike me, she could sit and sew for hours. Sometimes I'd catch her staring vacantly at the sky. I wondered what she thought about all day. If she had any thoughts. I ignored her as best as I could, but when I made mistakes in my tapestry, she'd come to me and say, "Your stitches are uneven, Shiori. You'd best redo them. Or that crane is missing an eye. Lady Bushian will notice." Bless the eternal courts, her remarks never required a response, at least until today. Today she visited me with a strange request. "The gold sash Lord Yuji gifted you to wear for your betrothal ceremony, do you know where it is?" I shrugged. "It must have fallen into the lake with me." My answer didn't please Reikama. She didn't glower or frown, but I could tell from the way her shoulders squared that it wasn't the answer she'd wanted. "When you find it, bring it to me." I lied that I would. Then she left, and I promptly forgot about the sash. The morning of the summer festival, adults and children alike sauntered along the Imperial Promenade, clutching kites of every shape and color. I longed to go. Today was the only day that Andahai let loose, that Benkai wasn't busy training to be a commander, that Reiji and Hasho weren't stuck studying with their tutors. Even the twins, Wandei and Yotan, who were different as the sun and moon and always argued about everything, never argued. On festival day, they came together to design and construct the most brilliant kite. All 7 of us would help, and when we flew it across the sky, it would be the envy of everyone at court. And all the food I'd miss: rabbit-shaped cookies filled with sweet red beans, skewers of rice, cakes stuffed with fresh peaches or melon paste, sugar candies shaped into tigers and bears. How unfair it was that I had to stay inside and sew with Reikama. Finally, when my stomach couldn't take it any longer, I worked up the courage to ask, "Stepmother, the festival is beginning. May I go? Please. You may leave when your embroidery is finished." "I wouldn't be finished for another month. It'll be over by then." "Do not sulk, Shiori. It is unbecoming." My stepmother didn't look up as her needle swam in and out of the cloth. "We had an agreement with your father." I crossed my arms, indignant. I wasn't sulking. "Don't you want to go?" She turned and opened her sewing chest. Inside were hundreds of neatly wrapped balls of thread, yarn, and embroidery floss. Reikama started putting away her threads. "I have never enjoyed such things. I attend only out of duty." Outside the window, drums pounded and laughter bounced. Smoke from the grills spiraled into the sky, children danced in their brightest clothes, and the first kites of the morning flitted high against the clouds. How could anyone not enjoy such things? I sat back in my corner, resigned to my fate. My brothers would bring me some of the best food, I was sure. But I wouldn't get a chance to talk to the visiting cooks or watch them at work. The only dish I had mastered was my mother's fish soup, but I expected to cook more or at least supervise the kitchen once I had to move to the north region of the blandest cuisine. I was so busy wishing I were at the festival that I didn't hear my father enter the room. When I saw him, my heart skipped. Father. I have come to invite my consort to attend the festival with me, he said, pretending not to notice me. Is she ready? My stepmother stood, holding her embroidery chest. Just a moment. Allow me to put this away. When she disappeared into the adjacent chamber, father turned to me. His expression was stern, and I put on my best apologetic face, hoping he'd take pity on me. It worked, though what he said surprised me. Your stepmother says you've made good progress on the tapestry. She does. You think she does not like you, father said observantly. His eyes, near mirrors of my own, held my gaze. He sighed when I said nothing. Your stepmother has suffered many hardships, and it pains her to speak of them. It would gladden me greatly to see you think well of her. Yes, father. I will do my best. Good, he replied. Lord Bushian and his son will return in the autumn for Endahai's wedding. You will present your apology to them then. Now go and enjoy the festival. My eyes lit up. Really? I'd hoped staying inside would calm your restless spirit, but I can see nothing will tame you. He touched my cheek, tracing the dimple that appeared whenever I was happy. You look more and more like your mother every day, Shiori. I disagreed. My face was too round, my nose too sharp, and my smile more impish than kind. I was no beauty, not like mother. Yet every time father spoke of her, his eyes misted and I yearned to hear more. There rarely was more. With a quiet exhale, he drew back his hand and said, Go. I didn't need to be told twice. Like a bird that had finally been released from her cage, I flew out to find my brothers. The summer festival was packed with hundreds of revelers by the time I arrived, but I found my brothers easily. They were lounging in the park, away from the manicured pavilions, the vermilion gates, and the white sand squares. The twins had crafted a brilliant turtle kite this year, and my other brothers were helping to paint the finishing touches. The turtle's four legs jutted out of its shell, which was a patchwork of scraps from old silk, scarves and jackets. Against the clear blue of the afternoon, it would look like it was swimming in the Imperial Garden's azure ponds. I hurried to join them. Every year since we were children, we'd flown a family kite together during the summer festival. My brothers were all of marriageable age now, and I already engaged and the rest soon to be. It was our last time doing this together. You've outdone yourselves this year, brothers, I greeted Shiori. One day he spared me a brief glance, a measuring string in his hands as he checked the kite's final dimensions. You made it. Just in time, too. Yotan was about to eat all the food we saved for you. Only so it wouldn't go to waste. Yotan wiped the green paint from his hands. You make me sound like a glutton. Shiori's the glutton. You're just the one with the big belly. Yotan harumphed. It's only these ears that are big. Same as yours. He tugged at his twins which, like his, did stick out a little more than everyone else's. I stifled a giggle. Is there anything good left? Yotan waved at a tray of food they'd carried from the stalls. All the best dishes are nearly gone. He winked and leaned close, letting me in on the stash of glutinous rice cakes under his cloak. SHH, don't show the others. I had to bribe the vendor just to get this last plate. Winking back, I popped a rice cake into my mouth. My shoulders melted as my tongue savored the chewiness of the rice dough, the powdered sugar dusting my lips with just enough sweetness. Greedily, I reached for another before Yotan could hide the stash again. Save some for the rest of us. Reiji complained. I just got here, I said, snatching another cake. You've had all day to enjoy the food. Some of us have been working on the kite, he replied testily. As usual, my third brother's nostrils were flared with discontent. Besides, there's not much to enjoy. No monkey cakes stall, no grilled fish balls. Even the sugar artist isn't as good as last year's. Let her eat, said Benkai. You always have something to complain about. While my brothers bickered and I feasted, my attention wandered past the magnolia trees to the lake where I'd almost drowned. Where I'd seen the dragon. Part of me itched to go and look for him. Come, let's hurry before the best food is gone, said Hasho. Pick up more grilled fish, will you? Yotan called to us. My other brothers decided to stay back and help the twins with the kite. The competition started in half an hour. Just enough time for Hasho and me to explore. Children in masks squeezed between us, squealing as they ran toward the gaming tents to win. Porcelain dolls and silver-finned fish in glass jars. Back when I was their age, the games were what excited me most too. Now it was the food. I inhaled, taking in the aroma of fried mackerel skewers and tea eggs, of battered shrimp and pickled bamboo shoots, of glass noodles dipped in peanut sauce. For a so-called glutton like me, heaven. Princess Shiori, the vendors exclaimed, one after another, what an honor it is for my humble stall to be graced by your presence. Don't you think we should head back? Hasho said after I'd gobbled up a plate of noodles and battered shrimp. The competition's starting soon. Father and Reikama were already strolling toward the central courtyard, where the kite competition would be held. On his way to join the emperor, Lord Yuji waved to Hasho and me. My, you're looking more like your mother every day, he greeted me pleasantly. Young Bushian. Taken is fortunate indeed. Is he, now? Said Hasho. Her looks are one thing, but her manners. I elbowed my brother. Hush. The warlord let out a throaty laugh. He had always reminded me of a fox, with sharp shoulders, little teeth, and an easy smile. The North could use some of Princess Shiori's famous troublemaking. He clasped his hands, then gestured at my dress, plain compared to his opulent robes. I heard you fell into the sacred lake not long ago and lost your father a fortune in silk. So I did, I said, and my tone took a tighter turn. I'm afraid I also lost the sash you sent. I'm made to think it was quite valuable, given how it distressed my stepmother. Did it? Lord Yuji said. That is news to me, but worry not, your highness. Sashes are easily replaced, and my sons and I only thank the gods you were found and returned home safely. He leaned close. Though, between us, I am expecting a shipment of silk from my Alandan friends shortly. I am told red is your favorite color. It is the color the gods notice most, I replied cheekily. If I'm to be sent north, I will need all the attention they can spare. He laughed again. May the luck of the dragons be with you, then. Red it shall be. As he left, I let out a sigh. Lord Yuji was generous and wealthy, and more importantly, his castle was just outside Jindara. Sometimes I wished I were betrothed to one of his sons instead of Lord Bushian's. If I had to be forced into marriage, at least I'd be closer to home and not promised to some barbarian lord of the third rank. Alliances must be made, father said whenever I dared complain. One day, you will understand. No, I'd never understand. Even now, the inequity of it made my stomach roil, and I stuffed my last rice cake into my mouth. You're eating so fast you're going to get indigestion, said Hasho. If I slow down, all the food will be gone, I replied between mouthfuls. Besides, sewing takes up energy. Go on back, I know you're itching to watch Wandai test out the kite. I'm still hungry. Without waiting for him, I traipsed down the aisles, heading for the rice cakes. A fresh batch awaited me, neatly decorated in a large wooden bowl. Specially made for a princess. Shiori, said the vendor. I scooped it into my arms and grabbed a helping of sweet potatoes too, tucking the little sack under my arm. I made it halfway back to my brother's when I spotted a boy in a dragon mask lurking behind the grilled fish stall. His robes looked outdated, the sash too wide by a generation, and his sandals were mismatched. He was too tall to be a child, but he darted about the festival like one, or rather, like someone who wasn't supposed to be here. Oddest of all was his hair, streaked with green. The kite competition would begin soon, and my brothers were waiting. But I wanted a better look at the boy's mask. It was blue, with silver whiskers and scarlet horns. He was fast, scurrying about like a lizard, and even greedier than I was when it came to the food. Everything in the vendors' stalls was free, offered by the craftsmen to advertise their wares. But it wasn't polite to take more than 1 or 2 plates at a time. This boy was taking at least 5. How he managed to balance them on his arm was impressive, but if he kept up like this, the vendors would ban him from seeking more. And now he was angling after the fried lotus root. I shook my head. Novice. I suggest you skip the lotus, I said, going up to him. Everyone knows it's the worst dish at the festival. I thought I'd surprised him, but he merely winked, a pair of red eyes glittering behind his mask. Then I'll take yours. Before I could respond to his audacity, Hasho reappeared at my side, finally finding me. Shiori. Are you coming back? It's nearly time for the kite seer. The boy's foot suddenly shot out, tripping my brother before he could finish. Hasho stumbled. As he fell forward, grabbing me to steady his balance, a green sleeve whirled across my side and snatched the bag of sweet potatoes from under my arm. Hey! I shouted. Thief! Thief! The words hardly made it past my lips. Hasho and I toppled over each other, my half-eaten plates scattering across the street. Your Highnesses! People cried. Hands outstretched to help Hasho and me up, a crowd gathering to make sure we weren't hurt. I barely noticed. My attention was on the masked boy. You're not getting away so easily, I muttered, scanning past the onlookers. I spotted him edging along the outskirts of the gaming tents, then disappearing into the bushes. He moved even faster than Benkai, his steps so light they left no imprint on the soft summer grass. I started after him, but Hasho grabbed my wrist. Shiori, where are you? I'll be back in time for the competition, I said, wriggling my hand away. Ignoring Hasho's protests, I rushed after the boy in the dragon mask.